morning, everyone. Welcome on day 3 already of this year's ECCMID, the 33rd edition. My name is Judith Cohen. I am the ECCMID TV host, and you are joining us right now in our ECCMID TV studio live here from the Bella Center in Copenhagen, Denmark. So good morning. We have a full day packed for you. There's also, of course, a very full scientific program. And I have the honor to announce my next guest here with me in the studio, Professor Robert Reed, who is a returning guest to our studio. He is the moderator of the Clinical Grand Round, which is an immensely popular program element for ECCMID each year. So we spoke to him last year also about the Clinical Grand Round and have the honor to dive in with him again about this year's Clinical Grand Round. So a warm welcome to you, Robert.
Well, thanks, and morning to you.
Great to have you back here.
Yep.
So I was just telling our viewers that we saw you last year here, and we talked somewhat about the Clinical Grand Round, what was going to happen. How was it? Because we never heard back here at ECCMID TV.
Well, I'm so sorry. Yeah, it went really well. I think we had approximately 2,000 people at last year's session, so it was very successful indeed. And the feedback we got from the audience was terrific.
Yeah.
They really enjoyed the session. They enjoyed the personalities on the panel, and they enjoyed all of the cases that we showed them. So last year went really well, and so as a result of that, we've just done the same thing again this year.
Great.
Although I have to say we have been doing it now since the ECCMID in Prague, which was about 12 years ago. And I did that one, and I've done it every year since then, which is a great privilege and honor, and I'm very grateful to ESCCMID for asking me to do it again this year. At that time, in the original Prague ECCMID, where we constructed the original Clinical Grand Round, it was done in association with an Australian version of me, a professor of infectious diseases in Australia called Lindsay Grayson. And he and I had this idea of trying to mimic a real ward round. Because there are plenty of examples of other sessions internationally and conferences where they present cases or clinical problems. But what we wanted to try and do is really replicate what goes on in an infectious disease ward round in a way that felt real to the audience.
As if the patient were on stage.
As if the patient was on stage. And you know, when you're doing an infectious disease ward round, you know, you'll either do it on your own or you'll do it with a fellow or a couple of fellows, and they will have seen the cases and they'll have tried to make sense of it, and then they will present it to you as the senior doctor. And your job then is to try and piece together all of this information.
Yeah.
And that's what we tried to construct, and it came off. It succeeded, and since then, it's you know, it's just gone from strength to strength every year. So I think the reason why it's been successful is it's different in the sense that sometimes when cases are presented to an audience, it's all about the facts. How do you you know, a series of facts? What's the commonest cause of diarrhea in Bangladesh or something? Well, that's okay, but what happens on a real ward round is that you're trying to make value judgments and you're trying to make scientific judgments based on a sort of mosaic of information that may not be complete. Yeah. But here's the thing, you have to use your experience and your feel to try and make a judgment in the best interests of the patient. Yeah. It's not a game. You know, it's a serious business, and you have to try and package together all these pieces of information. Yeah. And
just a little bit more about the format. So there's a group of panelists, and the panelists, there are 6 in total, I believe, and there are different case presenters. So each case gets managed by the panelists, or is there interaction with the audience also?
Okay, thank you. So the way it's done is we have 6 expert consultants. They're all from different countries around the world. So this year we have a consultant, a professor from South Africa, one from the United States, we have one from India, we have one from Australia, we have two others one from France and one from Netherlands, no, sorry, Denmark. And they are put into pairs because you'll never have six consultants going around.
No.
You may have two.
Yeah.
You know, you work in partnership. And those pairs will each have to listen to a case presented by one of 7 fellows. So we select the fellows based on competition, and what happens is that around about November, December time, we invite ID trainees in Europe and beyond to submit potential cases, and then that's examined by a committee.
And these potential cases, they're most likely to have happened in real life,
Oh,
right?
no, they're real cases.
They are, yeah.
Oh, no,
Yeah, they're not fictive, not fiction.
No, they're not.
By a very smart
They,
fellow.
no, they really happened.
Yeah.
And what's more, not only did they really happen, but the fellows are asked to present,
Yeah.
you know, the images,
Yes.
the histology,
laboratory values.
All everything that really happened in the case, and then a committee then decides which of these cases passes muster, is good enough. And then we decide which ones to select based upon the variety that we have. So we always try to get something that's viral, something that's bacterial, something that's parasitic, you know, and fungal. We try to get people who are immunosuppressed or who have other special clinical problems that are of interest to an infectious disease person. And we make a selection really based on that variety and on that quality. We obviously ensure that there's a nice equal spread of people from different parts of Europe. We want a roughly equal men and women. We also, we all try to make sure that we are diverse as much as is possible, given which cases are presented.
It's a lot to take into account. Do you
Yeah,
have enough
obviously.
applicants so you can do
yes.
this?
So
Okay, yeah.
I mean, this year, for example, we had, I think, 60.
Oh, wow.
And from which we had to choose 7. So the committee had
That's quite daunting too.
quite a big job to do in sort of judging which of those cases fits our bill. So what we're looking for is cases where it's kind of open-ended. It's not a slam dunk in the sense that you know a piece of information is provided and then you have to know that foamy cells are seen in Whipple's disease, you know, and therefore it's Whipple's disease. No, we can't have that. It has to be a series of complex judgments that need to be made, not just about the diagnosis, but also about which are the appropriate investigations to do and what is the best way to treat the patient. Because in real life, we may know that a particular antibiotic is what you use for this or that disease, but actually, in reality, the patient will often have vulnerabilities that you have to take into account, renal failure or hematological problems, and the selection of treatment is more subtle than just what you use in a specific infection. And the patient may be immunosuppressed, and you have to also supplement their immune system, or you need to modulate their immune system, and those drugs also interact with the treatment that you're giving, the antimicrobials that you're using. So we want to bring out all of these difficulties on stage, but the audience will get that experience that they get at home, and here they'll be able to see, well, what do 6 real experts think about the same problem that I've had to face in my clinical practice? So, you know, that's why we assemble the Grand Round in the way we assemble, to make it feel like it's familiar, challenging, and it turns out to be quite an enjoyable and educational experience.
Does it often happen that a duo of panelists do not manage to come to the correct diagnosis?
It doesn't happen very much, but I mean, what I do is I open it up to all 6 panel members. Generally, a fellow will present the case, and I'll ask two of the panel members, to share the burden of trying to discuss the case. And usually, if one of them doesn't know the answer, the other one will. You know, it's a fair chance that out of two
They'll
international
manage. Yeah.
level consultants. One of them's going to be able to say something, and of course, if they can't think of what to say, I then open it up to the others, and we always get some kind of discussion.
Yeah.
And even if they say, "Look, it's impossible to say anything about this," that's useful as well, because the
Absolutely.
audience is probably thinking the same thing.
Yeah, it gives you an insight in their differential thinking.
And actually, it just reinforces the audience's uncertainty, so they can see that, okay, this is real life, because often we haven't got a clue either.
Yeah.
And so I'm so reassured that even these guys, these
Yeah.
men and women on the stage now, they don't know either what this is.
No.
So,
So do panelists apply to become a panelist themselves? How does that selection go?
no, we do
You ask
carefully
them.
select the panel members based upon their reputation and
As an idea.
and how well they're known, and they often will be recommended by members of the ESCMID executive, and no, we do carefully choose the panel. Yeah, and of course we have to take into account expertise in particular areas. So we have to have an expertise in immunosuppression, fungal diseases,
Yes.
viral diseases.
Yes.
So we try to get a good mixture of that. But the main thing is they're all pretty good clinicians.
Yeah.
And have very high reputations.
They must be, yeah.
And
Yeah.
also willing
Yes.
to take part in a rather public process.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
And
Showing people what your way of thinking is, your
the
way of
thinking.
working.
I mean, it should be said, my major priority is not to embarrass the panel members.
No, of course.
So
no.
really, that's why I put
Yeah.
them into pairs. It's so
Yeah.
that they, if one of them doesn't know what it is, the other one will possibly have some idea, and then they can share the process from then on.
Yeah.
And then I can put it out to the other
Yeah.
panel members. I have to say, if anyone's watching, I am really grateful to all the panel members over the years who've come on the stage and been prepared to.
Yeah, it can be a quite vulnerable situation, of course.
Well, they're putting their
It
reputation.
doesn't have to be, but yeah.
Well, I try to make it
Yeah.
not a threatening experience
Of
for them.
course.
And for that reason, people do come back. I've never had
Yeah.
anyone who said, "I'm never doing that again."
You've
you
been
know.
asked to organize it for the 12th time,
Uh,
so that
so,
must
So I'm
advocate for your.
I would like to tell your audience that I'm very grateful to the panel members. I'm also very grateful to the fellows, because I do put them
Yeah.
through quite a lot of preparation
Yes,
for
I
this.
can imagine.
And they're always very willing to learn, and they're always very willing to let me completely change the way that they were planning to present
Yeah.
their case.
Yeah.
Because obviously it is important that you've only got 17 and a half minutes per case,
Yeah.
that you've got to get it right. And so I'm very grateful to the fellows for letting me rewrite their presentations and for reordering the
Yeah,
way
well,
they
it's
do
a really
things.
important thing that you're touching on now. I mean, if you can't stay within the time of a session, that hugely
it's a
impacts the
disaster.
success of your session.
It's a disaster. I mean, the whole thing about
Yeah.
when you're on a ward round, it's all going very quickly.
Yeah.
You're going around the patients, you go from one to the
Sure.
other. You haven't got time to hang around, so you don't spend 40 minutes talking about one case. It's
No.
usually a shorter time than that.
Maybe
And
you would
so-
like to, but it's just not
Exactly.
reality.
And so it is with this. We
Yeah.
have to get on with it, get it sorted out, and then move on. And that's how that's how you maintain that feel of this being an actual ward round. Except every single case appears today to be very complicated and a little bit wacky. And we happen to have on our ward round 2 or 3 of the best experts in the world in this field. So
Yeah.
that's how I wanted to feel to the audience, and that's how
Yeah.
it kind of ends up coming across.
Yeah.
I hope.
I think it'll be a wonderful experience for all who attend.
Yeah.
It's not a sign-up event, right? It's just
No, you can just turn up.
as soon as Hall A is full, it's full.
It
but
is,
It
yeah.
isn't.
I think
full
last
that-
year there
that
was a sort of
quickly.
spillover thing,
Yeah.
and actually it kind of works whether you're actually in the hall or you're watching it on one of the screens. I mean, it's the camera
same,
work seems
same
to be really
experience.
good. They
Oh,
they managed
absolutely.
to show the the slides that might have the images on. They
Yeah.
managed to show the people who are speaking. The sound was really good last year. So I think the people who didn't make it into the hall still had a good experience.
I believe they will this year too. Hall
Good.
A is fully equipped, I think,
Okay.
for this goal.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Robert, for taking the time to come here and give us a little more insight on what can be expected from this year's clinical grand round. For our viewers at home, if you want to go and join the clinical grand round, it's tomorrow morning, so Tuesday morning at 8:30 in Hall A. So don't miss out if you will enjoy a nice diagnostic puzzle with experts. We will be back here at ECCMID TV at the clock of 10 when we will be welcoming Professor Tom Harrison, who is one of the keynote lecturers this year's ECCMID. So tune in at 10 and we'll get to speak with him then. See you soon.